Welcome back, you guys. It's so nice to have you join me for another YOGALATES with SJ class. Today, I'm so excited to bring you this very complete Yin Yoga 60-minute full body stretching class. You don't need any equipment for today's session, but you might like to pause the video and just find a quiet space to be in. If you haven't already, maybe grabbing a nice warm blanket, making sure that your environment is nice and quiet and you have some nice things around you that make you feel good, maybe some cushions. And then taking your time to find child's pose. So starting to bring the big toes together, the knees out wide, allowing the arms to lengthen out, finding a softness into the belly. You might let the forehead come down onto the mat, maybe rolling the forehead a few times over the mat as you find some deeper breaths here, letting go of any tension, allowing yourself to arrive here into this beautiful time and space that is for you, this whole hour of complete relaxation. Taking that deep breath in, expanding the belly, and as you exhale out, allowing the pelvis to become heavier, allowing the belly to soften further, the shoulders relaxing, releasing the jaw, all of the muscles through the face starting to find some softness here. Maybe starting to allow the mind to start to join the physical body. And starting to let go of any thoughts that might be circulating. And then when you're ready, just starting to softly gaze up towards the hands, walking the hands over to the right side. And you can have the hands side by side, or maybe stacking the left hand on top of the right and then lowering the forehead back down onto the mat. Continuing to breathe here. Breathing in all the way and breathing out, sending the breath all the way down to the low back. Letting the pelvis become even heavier, feeling the breath expanding that left side, rib cage expanding, and then taking your time as you inhale to gaze back up and walking the hands over to the left side. And again, you can have the hands side by side or maybe stacking the right hand on top of the left as you allow everything to melt back down. If it feels a little bit too intense for the shoulders here to have the arms fully extended, you can always bring the hands back to frame the head, softening into the elbows a little bit more. So really just finding a stretch, but we never want to come to a place where we are holding our breath. So the most important thing is to kind of find that 80% stretch and then allowing the time and the breath to start to soften and melt into each stretch. When you're ready, just starting to come all the way up to a tabletop position. Letting the hands be in line with the shoulders and the hips with the knees. We're just starting to tuck the tailbone under as you bring the pelvis back towards the heels, bringing the chin to chest, and then shifting the hips forward as you start to lift the gaze, tailbone comes up. And then rounding the spine, chin to chest, sitting back towards the heels, lengthening through those arms, then bending through the elbows as you shift forward, allowing a neutral again, and just keeping this going. So moving in a cat-cow in any way that feels good. So this might be really just doing your regular cat-cow. It might be to move in another way that feels amazing for your body. Seeing if you can really allow yourself to move freely in whatever way feels good. And we're starting to walk the hands a little bit further forward, just tucking the toes of the right foot and pressing that right heel back, finding length through the back of the neck and lengthening out the tailbone here. Then you're lifting that foot up and bringing the knee forward and crossing the shin across the mat. Starting to slide that back leg long as the hips square to the front of the mat. The further back the foot is towards the other leg, the less deep of a stretch. So you can bring the foot back if it feels a little bit too intense here, bringing it back towards the end of the mat. Or if you want something a little bit more deeper and your hips are quite close to the ground here, you can sort of cross that shin quite parallel to the front of the mat. You might stay high here on the fingertips or on the palms, or coming down onto the forearms and letting the tummy come down towards the top of that leg, keeping length through the back of the neck, just a soft gaze forward. Or maybe with an exhale you might start to melt all the way down as you release the heart center down, forehead comes down onto the mat, finding that length through the arms. Relaxing the shoulders, relaxing the hips, tummy relaxing down, taking the deepest breath that you have all day, and then exhale, 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 melting, 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 letting go. Allowing the mind to start to follow the sound of your own breath. Taking those deeper breaths in, expanding the belly, the rib cage, the heart center, and sending that full breath to any areas of tightness, anywhere you can feel the stretch, using your exhale to not force anything, but just allowing that exhale to start to invite relaxation into the space that you're feeling that stretch. When you're ready, starting to slowly gaze up and walking the hands back up if you have been all the way down. And then you're tucking the back toes under and starting to shift the right knee back. And coming back to your tabletop, starting to tuck the tailbone under, sitting back towards the heels as you bring the chin to chest, rounding the spine, drawing the navel to spine as you come back through center to your tabletop. Nice neutral spine here, maybe a little twist from side to side, bumping the hips, finding what feels really, really good. And then we're starting to bring the left foot back, tucking the toes of that left foot, pressing the heel back, finding length through the back of the leg, through the calf, the hamstring, keeping length through the back of the neck. Shoulders are away from the ears. You're not locking into those elbows. Soft engagement of the core, so you're really supporting that low back as well. And take a deep breath in and lifting the foot up and bringing the knee all the way in and crossing the shin across the mat. Starting to slide that back leg long and adjusting your left foot, maybe bringing the foot back a little bit, or you might shift it forward to be more parallel with the front of the mat. Just making sure your hips are nice and square to the front of the mat here, and allowing everything to soften down, lengthening through the low back, lifting up out of the tummy muscles all the way up to the top of the head. And maybe you're coming all the way down here, or maybe you're staying high. Wherever you are, just starting to allow those deeper breaths in through the nose. And then empty, 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 letting go. Everything melting, 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 enjoying this time where you can just completely relax. You might notice the belly expanding, and softening with the exhale. Maybe you're noticing all the muscles through the face starting to relax, the jaw, relaxing the hips. And then when you're ready, taking your time to start to come all the way back up. If you are all the way down, coming back up onto the hands or onto the fingertips, tucking the back toes and starting to shift the left foot back to join the right, finding any movement here at all that feels good. And then we are starting to come down onto the forearms. Forearms are about shoulder width apart, and we are just starting to press the shoulders down towards the mat, and you're starting to circle the pelvis around just in one direction. And then when you're ready, you can start to circle back the other way. It's a really small circle here. You might let the head go, releasing the head and neck. Just really allowing that low back to relax, to get some nice stretching through that lower back. And then taking your time to come back up to your tabletop position. And then finding any movement that feels good here. Maybe a little bit of a bump of the hips from side to side. Before coming all the way down onto your forearms, dropping the front side of the pelvis down, allowing the legs to be long, about hip width apart, and having the top of the feet connected onto the mat, starting to press the shoulders down towards the mat, and then starting to allow some length through the back of the neck as you allow the head to come down. Chin comes to the chest, letting everything be nice and relaxed here. Allowing length through the low back, allowing that front side of the pelvis to relax even more. And you might allow the gaze to be neutral, so looking straight ahead, and then starting to stack one arm on top of the other and letting the forehead come down onto the support of the arms. Maybe bringing the feet out a little bit wider, creating a bit of space across the pelvis. Starting to take some deep breaths here in through the nose, drawing it all the way up. And then exhale, 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 releasing the breath all the way back out, and just continuing with those deeper breaths in through the nose, feeling the whole front side of the body pressing down towards your support, towards your mat. And with your exhale, feeling every muscle throughout the body starting to unwind, starting to relax and release. Allowing the mind to continue to follow the sound of your breath. And then just starting to gaze up softly. I'm going to bring the arms into a little cactus shape here. Gazing towards the left side, and you're starting to just keep the right arm down in that cactus shape, just pressing into that left hand and just finding a little bit of a stretch through the front side of that right shoulder. Maybe you might lift the left foot up and over and find a deeper stretch here as you roll over towards that right side, using that left supporting hand to hold you here. If it feels too intense to be over towards the right, you can just be in that neutral and just lift up a little bit by using that left hand. And then coming to the other side, so starting to just keep the left arm down, forearm down, pressing into the right hand, lifting up, maybe bringing that right foot all the way up and over, finding a deeper stretch through that left side, the shoulder, the neck. Breathing into any tension that might be there. Just inviting relaxation through that tension. Breathing it out, using the exhale to start to soften and melt a little bit further. Releasing, letting go. This is an amazing stretch for the front side of the shoulders, for the chest as well. Can be quite intense, so just going to a place where you can feel the stretch, but you're certainly able to breathe well still. Awesome. Coming back through center, just starting to press into the hands as you start to come back onto the knees, shifting the hips back, and then starting to come all the way to sit back onto your heels. A little bit of a rock from side to side if that feels good, and then you can tuck the toes and start to come to a fold. So we are starting to come to stand, but then just allowing the head and the arms, the shoulders to release down into a beautiful fold here. Just letting the pelvis release to the sky. You can have as much of a bend into the knees as you like. So really what we are wanting to do is just allow the head to be below the heart. This is an inversion, what we call an inversion in yoga. It's a really great way to release tension and to just kind of turn everything on its head, literally. Just letting the pelvis be nice and high. So we're finding length through the back of the legs. You can straighten the legs, but you can also have a bend into the knees. We're really just trying to find that lengthening of the tailbone up, letting the tummy muscles relax, maybe moving through the head in any way that feels good. Nodding the head yes, shaking the head no, maybe bending and straightening through the legs, finding some cleansing breaths in. Maybe releasing that breath out the mouth, just sighing it out as you energetically release any tension, allowing it to melt towards the earth, letting it go. And then when you're ready, slowly starting to bend through the knees, sitting the pelvis back towards the heels and coming to a seat. Taking your time, so not moving fast. This is your time to really allow yourself time to move more slowly. Time to just notice, be mindful of all of the little things. Just bringing the feet out a little bit wider, so about shoulder width or even a little bit wider than shoulder width apart. You might want to take something underneath the knees, or maybe even lifting the pelvis up using a pillow or a cushion. If you're feeling that there is a little bit of too much pressure on the knees here, you can, definitely put something underneath those knees to support. Just inhale and lengthen the arms up, and as you exhale, we're hinging forward at the hips, starting to allow a nice lengthening through the spine and letting the arms come forward, and just letting the rounding come into the upper back once you're kind of out as far as what the hips decide they want to bring you. Taking some really deep breaths in here, and as you exhale, just letting the pelvis kind of lengthen back, the hips lengthening back at the same time, feeling everything starting to soften forward, the head relaxing more, the arms, shoulders, eyebrows, space between the eyebrows, breathing in, melting out. Beautiful. When you're ready, starting to slowly walk the hands back in, lengthening up into the spine, sitting up nice and tall, bringing the sole of the right foot to the left inner thigh and having a flex into that left foot. Knee is pointing straight up. We're just starting to bring the left arm down to the inside of that left leg, palm facing up, and then you can start to reach the right arm up and over, or maybe you might bring the back of that right hand to the low back if that feels better. Just starting to find some deeper breaths here, letting the pelvis be neutral, so we are keeping both sit bones down on the mat. The hips are nice and grounded down. And then taking your time to come all the way back up and rolling the shoulders, releasing the shoulders down. Maybe a little bit of movement through the head, anything that feels good, wiggling through the jaw. And then taking your time to let that right leg stay out, bringing the sole of the left foot to the right inner thigh and lengthening up into the spine here. Starting to allow the right arm to come to the inside of the right leg, palm facing up. You can bring the left arm up and over, holding on to the foot, or maybe you might bring the left hand, that back of that left hand to your low back, opening up through the left shoulder. Just grounding the tailbone down, pelvis is heavy, finding that length through that side of the body, breathing in, breathing out. And then taking your time to slowly unwind, coming back through center and finding that length into the spine. And just starting to shift the pelvis forward. Going to start to come down onto our backs. So just starting to hold on to behind the legs and then slowly rolling all the way down to come to your back. You can bring the knees out wide, or maybe you've got the knees together, just hugging those knees and just taking some time here to lengthen the tailbone down so you can feel the full spine connected to your mat. Maybe moving through the feet, toes, maybe finding a rock from side to side, even just rocking the head from side to side, finding a little massage through the back of the head, finding those deeper breaths in through the nose, and then exhale, 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 relaxing everything, toes relaxing, tummy muscles, back of the shoulders, back of the neck. And then you might just start to come up to bring the legs to a happy baby position. Just flexing the toes back and pressing the heels up towards the ceiling, maybe holding on to behind the knees or somewhere on the legs. Or you might reach up and grab hold of the outside of the feet, using your arm strength to gently pull down those knees towards the shoulders as you lengthen the tailbone down to the end of the mat. Keeping length through the back of the neck, gazing straight up. Maybe having the eyes closed. You might start to bend one leg and then the other if it feels good. Just having a little play here. This is so nice to just kind of play around with. Maybe straightening the legs, bringing them out wide, or maybe just hugging the knees. start to stay in stillness here and just really find your breath. Allowing the mind to continually come back to notice your breath. Notice that deep breath in, that full breath out. Just allowing any thoughts to just kind of float past like clouds in the sky, returning always back to your breath. So not trying not to think, but just every time thoughts sort of pop in, just coming back to notice where you are, notice the sensations in the body, where you can feel the stretch, noticing the airflow as it goes in through the nose and out the nose or mouth. Maybe becoming really, really quiet so you tune in to your breath, your own breath, that quiet sound. If it feels good here, you might bring the knees to come toward the chest, letting the back of the heels soften to the pelvis, maybe holding on to behind the knees as you just kind of allow the back of the shoulders and the elbows to soften towards the earth. Just letting the hips release here. So not so much holding the legs, but just being a little support as the hips start to soften outward. Relaxing all of the muscles through the tummy, ankles, toes, relaxing, outer thighs, inner thighs. You might like to lengthen the legs up. Maybe starting to bring the hands underneath the pelvis, palms facing down, shuffling the shoulders underneath you. Maybe just letting the legs float in a waterfall pose, just a softness into the knees. Any movement here that feels good, into the ankles, the toes, maybe looking up at the toes and kind of checking your feet out without any judgment, without wondering if you should be having a pedicure or not. Just checking out how amazing those feet are, what they do every day. Don't stop very often and check that out. Just allowing everything to soften here, relaxing. It should feel really nice having the legs floating. Another way to do this is to just allow the legs to come up a wall, so coming up against a wall and just letting the legs relax up against a wall, or even having the legs over the back of a couch, or you can use a block or a bolster instead of the hands underneath the pelvis. You might just stay here wherever you are, or you might start to move into another shape with me. I'm going to start to allow a little rock of the knees from side to side. So just coming down to allow the arms to come out into a slightly wider position, palms facing up. Gently allowing the knees to fall over to one side and then up and over to the other side, and letting the head just roll back and forwards as well. Finding a beautiful massage here through the back of the head, through the lower back. Also giving those hips a really beautiful release as well. Hopefully you're starting to become a little bit more relaxed. Starting to release even further. This is a great class to do at any time of day, and something you can really do every day for your full body as well as mind and emotional health as well. It's a great way to unwind and to get rid of any niggles, any kind of tension, sore muscles. Maybe you've been training, doing some sport or doing running. You need a really deep tissue release, and this is perfect for you, this yin yoga class, after your training. Maybe you are just very busy in your everyday life. You just need some time to completely relax and de-stress. Get rid of any tension, any anxiety, any worries. You might just start to allow the soles of the feet to come together, knees out wide if you haven't already. And just allowing everything to relax even further down into the support. If you want to, you can cover the body in any of the shapes as well, with a blanket or even the eyes. Encouraging you to just continue to follow your breath. Every time the mind starts to wander, starts to think about something else, just leading it back gently to notice that where you are, that connection of your body to what it's connected to, allowing yourself to fully be held here, cocooned, so you can just release your entire weight down into the support of your mat. You might take a deep, deep breath in and a full breath out, letting it go. And slowly, when you feel to, using your hands to close the legs back toward each other and allowing the knees to fall inward. Maybe you might heel toe the feet out a little bit wider, making a little tent with the legs so we have a bit of a internal rotation of the hips and letting those inner thighs soften inward. And just taking your time to relax here. So it doesn't matter where the feet are. The main thing is that you really don't feel you're holding the legs here. So just finding a position of that little tent of the legs where you can feel that one knee is fully supporting the other. Breathing deeply in through the nose, filling, 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 filling. And then empty, 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 empty. Melting, melting, melting. You might really tune into those tiny subtle movements, noticing your natural breath, noticing very slight rise and fall of the front side of the body as you breathe naturally. And then taking your time to hug your left knee in towards the left shoulder. If you want to, you can slide your right leg long for a deeper stretch, or you can keep the sole of the right foot on the mat. It's a little bit too intense to have the leg extended. You might find a little rock of the head from side to side, maybe rocking that knee from side to side. Anything that feels good here into the hip. And just letting the jaw release, allowing some openness through the throat. Maybe a bit of movement into the foot, taking the right hand to the outside of that left knee and gently guiding the leg across the body as you bring the left arm out and slowly rolling the head over to gaze towards that left arm, finding a beautiful twist here. And just maybe releasing that right arm as well if it feels good. You don't have to hold on to the leg. And just starting to find those deeper breaths in, noticing the expansion of the left side, hip and waist and rib cage. And as you exhale, 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 release it all out. Feeling the pelvis, outer thigh, inner thigh, glute, low back, neck, arm, all of the muscles releasing, relaxing down. As you continue here, you might just start to find those deep breaths in and full breaths out before unwinding, coming all the way back over through center and switching to the other side. So starting to gently bring the right knee in towards the right shoulder, extending the left leg long if you did so on the other side, or you can have the left foot on the mat. Just starting to squeeze the knee in towards the shoulder, finding that beautiful lengthening out of the low back, the tailbone, pelvis, and at the same time feeling that really, really nice stretch through the hip here as you squeeze that knee in. Then starting to gently guide the leg across the body. So taking the right hand to the outside of that knee and guiding the leg across, starting to roll all the way over. So the top of the shoulders, the back of those shoulders, and the shoulder blades are on the mat, gazing over to the right side and letting the arms come out wide, palms facing up, just releasing the fingers, the back of the hands melting, the back of those forearms, the elbows, upper arms, the whole body releasing, relaxing, melting. And then when you are ready, starting to slowly unwind. Maybe just letting the head come back through center first and then rolling all the way over. Hugging the knee in just one more time. Squeezing it in and then taking a really, really big stretch. Lengthening the arms and legs long. Any movement here that feels good. Maybe moving through the ankles, the feet. And then taking your time to just start to hug the knees in towards the chest. You can use your hands to gently sort of make circles with the knees, finding a little massage through the low back. Or maybe you might just wrap the hands or the arms around the front side of those knees and just take a big hug of the legs in, lengthening the pelvis, the tailbone down. Anything here that feels good. And then taking a moment to start to lengthen the legs nice and long and starting to bring both feet over towards the right side of the mat, crossing the left ankle in front of the right ankle, and then starting to take the left wrist in the right hand and lifting the head up and over, and starting to allow a little banana shape into the body here. So the head is over to the right and the feet are over to the right. Letting the back of the shoulders relax into the mat, allowing some deeper breaths here into the side waist, the ribs, the hip. This is a beautiful stretch for that whole side of the body. Taking a deep breath in. Exhale, 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 exhale. Let it go. And then just taking your time to come back with the head through center, uncrossing the ankles, and then taking the ankles over to the other side, to that left side, crossing the right ankle in front of the left, and then starting to take hold of the wrist and lift the head up and over to that left side. Letting the back of the shoulders, the forearms, the fingers, everything melting here, finding that stretch through that right side. If it's too deep of a stretch to cross the ankles, you can just have the feet side by side as well. Really honouring what feels good in your body today. Every day is so different. And whenever we come into yoga, it's a really good thing to learn to just tune in to what your body needs today, in this moment. It might have been really different yesterday. And everyone's so different too, so it's really, really important not to compare. We want to really just work with ourselves, tuning into what feels good in your body. That's why a home practice is actually such a nice opportunity as well, to be able to do that in the privacy of your own home. Unwinding when you're ready, guys. We're just taking the outside of the right ankle, crossing it in front of the left knee. And just a little rock from side to side here of the head as well as the pelvis. It's just a very small little gentle rock here, opening up through that right hip and the inner thigh, but at the same time getting a nice stretch and a massage into the lower back. And then you can switch sides, so taking the outside of that left ankle, crossing it in front of the right knee, and just finding that gentle rock from side to side. Relaxing the inner thighs, the hips, relaxing the throat, the jaw, finding softness into all the muscles of the face, letting the tummy soften. Back of the shoulders, the elbows, the fingers starting to curl, back of the hands relaxing, and then starting to uncross those legs and starting to lengthen the legs long, letting the feet come out a little bit wider, finding some openness here across the front side of the pelvis, letting the outside of those feet release to either side, just starting to sweep the arms up overhead, and we're just floating the fingertips up towards the ceiling, and then exhale as you start to float the arms all the way back down into the earth behind the head. Inhale, starting to float those fingertips up. And exhale as the palms start to float down towards either side of the legs. So we are just floating the arms all the way up and over. And as you exhale, slowly moving the arms in time with the breath. So we're slowing the movement down and slowing the breath down, even to a slow motion, inviting you to kind of practice how it feels to slow everything down to a point it might feel unusual, might be kind of not how you would normally do it. You might even close the eyes and kind of tune in to how this feels, the floating sensation of those arms. Amazing. When you're ready, just taking your time to slowly come all the way up. And then starting to come onto hands and knees to a tabletop position. And just finding any kind of movement here that feels good. We're coming to tabletop. We're just going to start to circle the pelvis all the way back towards the heels and letting the head go, the neck go. Just keeping this going, a bit of a circle through that pelvis. Just flowing freely as you find your breath. Breathing deeply in through the nose, fully out the mouth. Seeing if you can make your inhale one circle and then the exhale is your next circle. So we're slowing the movement down, slowing the breath down, allowing your deeper breaths to be the leader and allowing the body to follow along. Starting to take your time to circle the pelvis back the other way when you're ready. Breathing in, breathing out. You can imagine that your body is so free here, there's no restriction. And then you might just find a little tuck of the tailbone under, sitting the pelvis back towards the heels with that rounding of the spine, and then coming forward to a neutral spine as you flatten the back out. And then tucking the tailbone under, chin to chest, navel to spine, keeping that rounding as you sit back towards the heels, and then shifting forward at the hips as you lengthen out, finding that long line from the top of the head out the tailbone. So it's kind of a cat-cow here, but we are going from the rounding of the spine to a neutral spine. So back to tabletop rather than dropping the belly and gazing up. Awesome. Just staying here. We're starting to step the right foot to the outside of the right hand. You can slightly turn the toes out, just opening up through that right side of the hip, but at the same time keeping the hips square. And we are starting to stay high here, or you can come down a little bit lower, maybe dropping down onto the forearms. Just making sure that you're pressing the shoulders down towards the mat so that you're really supporting the elbows, the joints here as well. You can either gaze straight down or you can let the head and neck go. And we are just releasing the hips down towards the earth. And then taking your time to come up. We're bringing the hand to the inside of that right knee or the inner thigh. Starting to use your hand to press out as you gaze over the right shoulder. Keeping the hips square here, relaxing those hips down towards the mat as you twist to that right side. All of the twisting here is coming from the navel upwards, so we are just keeping the lower body nice and square. And then coming all the way back through center and framing that front foot. Starting to heel toe the foot so that it comes in a little bit closer, about hip distance apart. And then lifting the toes up towards the face, coming back onto the heel as you find length through the whole back, the head, the back of the neck, all the way out the tailbone, and then pressing the hips back as you start to allow the head and neck to come down towards that leg. Just letting everything melt here. Tummy relaxing. Breathing deeply in. Feeling the belly as it expands, and then exhale, exhale, exhale. Relaxing, sending your breath to melt away any tension that you notice is there. In the hamstring, the hip, wherever it is. Using that exhale to start to slowly soften and melt all of that tension away. And then just starting to shift forward, taking any kind of little adjustments here that you feel to, and then we are coming back to our tabletop position, and then stepping the left foot out. So the left foot comes up, comes out wider than that left hand. You can start to turn the toes out a little bit, opening up through the left hip, and then just starting to come down onto the fingertips or onto the palms as you lengthen the spine, finding that long line and that lengthening up from the lower back all the way up to the top of the head. If you came down onto the forearms on the other side, you might like to do the same here on this side. Just starting to soften the pelvis down, softening the front side of those hips towards the mat. Releasing the head, breathing deeply in, exhale, 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 releasing out. And then in your own time, just starting to make your way back up if you are down. And then we're starting to take the left hand to the inside of that left knee, or maybe the inner thigh, keeping the pelvis and the hips releasing down, but you're twisting towards that left side with the torso. So all of the twisting here comes from the belly button up. You're gazing over that left shoulder, breathing deeply in. Exhale, 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 release. Unwinding, coming all the way back around. Starting to heel toe the foot to come in a little bit closer, about hip distance here. Starting to shift the hips back as you lift the toes towards the face. And finding length through the whole back here. The head is an extension of the rest of the back, so keeping everything in that nice long line. And then as you press the hips back even further, starting to soften the belly and the head down to release towards the leg. Letting go. And then when you're ready, taking your time to slowly come up and hinging forward at the hips, dropping the front side of those hips down, and then starting to come all the way back. Just sit back onto your heels, tucking the toes under and rolling the shoulders up, releasing the shoulders down the back. If it feels a little bit too intense here to sit directly onto the back of the heels, you can place a cushion between the pelvis and the heels. Just doing what feels good here. We're going to be here for a little while, so just starting to allow the shoulders to release down, feeling that the head is in the same line as the rest of the back. And then we're going to take the right arm, sweeping it up, placing the right hand to the outside of the left head, and starting to allow a little bit of weight down through that hand to find a stretch through the left side of the head. So right ear comes to right shoulder, letting the shoulder on that left side relax down even more. Relaxing through the left arm, the fingers. Breathing deeply in and releasing, exhaling out. Unwind, just starting to move a little bit through the head, maybe a roll of the shoulders, and we'll come to the other side. So taking your time to sweep the left arm up and over, placing that left hand to the outside of the head, softly releasing a little bit of weight down onto the side of the head as you let the left ear come to the left shoulder. Relaxing the right shoulder down, the right arm, fingers, wrist, breathing in, feeling that beautiful stretch through the side of the neck, and heavy, 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 letting the head melt even further. Awesome. Coming back through center and just a little movement here into the shoulders. Inhale as you sweep the arms up, coming to a high kneeling position. Exhale, releasing the arms down. Rolling the shoulders up, releasing the shoulders down. Just a few shoulder rolls here, and then coming forward to tabletop. We're starting to just tap the tops of the feet onto the mat. Moving nice and fast here. We're getting some nice circulation into all of the feet, the ankles. So as you do this, starting to breathe in through the nose, exhale out the mouth, and inhale in, exhale out. Keep it going. Inhale in, exhale out. Even faster. Inhale in, exhale out. Awesome. Inhale in, exhale out, and slow it down, release. Starting to sit the pelvis all the way back towards the heels, rounding the spine, shifting forward, and just any movement here into the spine that feels good. It might be a little bump of the hips from side to side as you gaze over the opposite shoulder, the opposite direction to what the hips are going. Finding what feels good for you today. Breathing in and breathing out as we start to come towards the end of our practice today. And then just taking your time. We're starting to sit back towards those heels, keeping the toes untucked, starting to bring the hands behind you, fingertips pointing forward, and starting to lift the knees up. Or for a deeper stretch, you can reach the fingertips forward to the front of the knees, finding length into the spine. So you're sitting up nice and tall, shoulders are relaxed, and you are sitting back, finding that nice stretch through the front side of the shins, the front side of those ankles. This is quite intense, but it's so good because we don't stretch the side out very often of the ankles and the shins. So it's a really awesome stretch for that. Okay, let's take our time to finish off here in Shavasana, my favorite part. And I think most people's favorite part of the yoga practice as we start to come down. You might like to just grab anything that you like here, maybe popping on an extra layer of clothing, maybe grabbing a blanket and placing that over you. You might find something to cover your eyes with. Just allowing the legs to go out long, letting the outside of the feet fall heavy to either side, and allowing a little movement into the head, maybe a rock of the head side to side, before allowing everything to release down. You might bring the arms out a bit wider, maybe flipping the palms to the sky, finding that openness across the heart center, the front side of the shoulders, taking the deepest breath that you have so far, and then exhale, 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 exhale as you allow your whole body weight to melt down into the support. There's nothing that you need to do. All you need to do is relax, just letting your breath be natural as you feel the body releasing further down, melting, melting, melting. You can stay here for as long as you like, relaxing down before going about the rest of your day or evening. It was so beautiful to have you join me today. Thank you so much. And if you enjoyed this video, then you might like to subscribe to the channel for free yoga videos, home workouts, Pilates. Look forward to seeing you again soon. Namaste.